Welcome back to the Skylanders Ultimate Nightmare series, where I will play a solo run with every Skylander on Nightmare mode to see which Skylanders and which of their upgrade paths are best. First run here today is Hothead on the Oil Baron upgrade path, which allows him to do extra damage with an extra range on his Firestorm. Optionally, during the storm, you can spin around to create an oily explosion, which will send out oil and catch enemies on fire during the move. Or you can optionally hold the button down to summon a gigantic meteor from the sky. Interestingly, with the meteor, you can charge it up to make it bigger, but that doesn't actually change its damage at all, so usually it's worth it to just send it down almost right away. Also, with the oil spinning attack, it doesn't seem to actually do any extra damage, it just lights them on fire using the oil. So if the enemies already have oil on them, then it may not be worth it. This move is pretty good for hitting enemies that are up on these ledges, because of course the rain comes down from the sky, so it doesn't matter if the enemies are at higher elevation to you. Something interesting happens right here. I'm able to walk into the Drow archers and kill them. Usually giants can step on chompies in order to kill them, but I had no idea you could do it with the archers. And it doesn't seem to work with the archers that spawn at this point in the level. Goliath throws are a bit of an obstacle because I have no great move to use for when they're down. But at least the rain, I can kill the archers here, so it makes it a lot easier. The Executioner is dead simple, just stay away from him and he'll never use the spin attack, and just hit him from a range. Even with two at once, because there's a fire elemental zone here, Hothead can take these guys out insanely quickly. One thing you're going to end up doing on this upgrade path is charging up a meteor before walking into a fight, and then as soon as it starts you slam it down. It's kind of like if you were playing Trigger Happy, you would charge up the main attack fully before going in. It may sometimes take a bit to do, but why would you not want to start with the 100 damage move if you could? Like against this Executioner, it helps us take him out quickly before he starts teleporting everywhere. I struggled quite a bit more against these two though, because they come out in quick succession and the area is small. It turns out, having to stand still in order to use your best attack is not always the best. I don't know what is wrong with Hothead right now, but I'm trying to drive forward and he will not let me. Usually having a mobility move lets you go across this ice bowl easily, but Hothead is freaking out right now. You really have got to be pretty selective with when you use that rain, because like I said, it forces you to stand still. And enemies will get cheap shots, and those cheap shots will do hundreds of damage. Luckily, this sizzle shower allows us to hit these Archean jousters before they come into the next area. It becomes significantly easier to deal with this Bark Demon if those guys are all already down. But not free. It's not looking good anymore, but at least I can use the Archean Bomber to my advantage. Later on in the level, I try to squeeze past one of these Bark Demons, but due to being a giant, I didn't quite have enough space, and this is where the run is going to end for the Oil Baron. And now we've got the Burninator. This upgrade path allows us to use the Fire Flame continuously and for extra damage. It allows oil blobs and ignited oil blobs to do extra damage. And the best upgrade on this path, the reason you choose it, is for fossil fuel. Oil blobs turn into fossilized monsters which go out and attack enemies. These guys will slide around the map seeking out enemies, and if they land on one, they'll deal tons of damage over and over and over. Somewhat disappointingly, these guys won't spawn if you use the oil while standing right next to an enemy. It needs to slide out for a bit of distance before it can spawn the monster. And of course, Hothead doesn't really have a great way to get himself away from the enemies, which can make it sometimes a little awkward. And no, the Hot Rod Soul Gem does not help. He goes a little bit faster, but it's hard to control and there's a little bit of recovery time on it. It's just not worth it for driving away from enemies, more so to just speed up the other parts where there's no enemies. I want to take a moment to talk about the names of these upgrade paths. Currently we're on the Burninator, which has only one move that even upgrades his fire, and the other path is called Oil Baron, even though the Burninator has two moves which upgrade his oil, one of them being really good, turning them into the fossilized monsters. Upgrading the shower's power and range, and summoning a meteor don't even have anything to do with oil. You have to use the oil spin attack while in the rain in order to summon oil on the Oil Baron upgrade path. Not to mention that the Burninator, sometimes it's better to not light your oil blobs on fire because of how much damage they can just do. Like sure, the flamethrower sets them on fire for a bit of damage over time, but the monsters attack on their own. Look how much damage they're doing. These executioners were at full health and were taken down in about 5 seconds flat. I didn't at all expect this going in, but Hothead has some crazy DPS. I ended up having no troubles at all at the end of Pirate Island, and on the other upgrade paths run, I was really low health at this section. Even without the preemptive meteor strike, this executioner will die before getting an attack if you play well. However, like I was saying earlier, you've actually got to be at a bit of a distance in order to spawn those fossil fuel monsters. I didn't realize why they weren't spawning at this point in the run, which is why I was playing so suboptimally, but you can see the damage output is not really there if you don't spawn them. Most of the time I'm not even lighting these guys on fire, it's just better to send in more of them. Hothead is absolutely cruising through many of these levels. And no, I don't just mean because he has the Hot Rod upgrade. I don't think in any of the runs I've done so far, a different Skylander has taken out the Bark Demon quicker. Maybe a Tech Skylander because of the Elemental Zone. Here's an easy way to deal with Archaea and Jouster Bridge. Take out two of these guys before they even come down to join the fight. And you can do a similar thing here on the Vault Control platform using the Rain because it hits above the ledge and the Archaean Bomber's attacks. I didn't realize it until now, but the oil blobs can actually block the Bark Demon attacks. And even though it's not upgraded much on this path, the Rain can still help immensely. Taking out these grenade generals quickly is really key to not struggling in this area. And it seems the oil blobs can attack multiple guys at once if they're grouped really close together. So the mace majors and grenade generals here are dead in an instant. The flamethrower attack can help to push enemies away that are on top of you, but I've found it better to just spam secondary attack. It's so much better than everything else Hothead's got, and it's slight miscalculation on my part. I thought the flamethrower would kill these guys, but it did not. So we're suffering some massive damage. This part of the run is a bit scary. Even though we've dealt with a lot of Bark Demons before, I'm on low health here, and there's some chompies that might come over and sneak up on you if you're not super careful. Luckily, they're close enough to each other where they'll sometimes attack and kill each other, making the rest easy enough to deal with. Trollholm Security Castle gives us a fire elemental zone, so it's time to crank up the heat and absolutely decimate everything that comes into our path. And like I mentioned earlier, this is the fastest I've ever taken out the Chompy bot on Nightmare mode. Yes, there's a fire elemental zone, but this entire clip from start to finish takes him out in about 10 seconds. And once again, the unupgraded Sizzle Shower attack is coming in handy, taking out the grenade generals up on the ledge. This section, there's usually tons of grenades coming in from everywhere, so I found the best strategy is to just rush forward and kill the grenaders as soon as possible. And luckily, Hothead is able to do that quite nicely. Inhuman shields, on the other hand, are difficult to take out. I was trying to stand close to them so I can cut the corner and attack them from the back while they were down, but I ended up being too close and they attacked me. It is worth noting you cannot send an oil blob in from the front to take them out. I have tried. It looks like they might be able to swim through and attack from the other side, but unfortunately it is not possible. And while the other Chompy bot went down quickly, this one took a ton of time because I barely had opportunities to attack and I had to keep running away. Now that might be the first time I've killed the Chompy bot before all the inhuman shields. For some reason, Sizzle Shower does not reach high enough to get these grenade generals in Chaos's fortress, which is super unfortunate because it really looks like it would reach, and obviously it helps a ton if you're able to take those guys out early. But barely squeezing by with just 69 health, down to 25, I'm able to run away from the Troll Stompers and circle around this area, barely having enough health and damage to take them out. This was an insanely close call, and I don't know how I pulled it off, but Hothead is moving on and taking second place uncontested. Overall, I really enjoyed playing as Hothead. His moveset on this upgrade path felt a bit over-centralizing on the fossil fuel attack, but they're really fun, so there's not much to complain about. What I can complain about is ending the run due to a saw blade trap. Bit of an error on my end, but that's what happens when you do only one run sometimes.